We're ready for our Bible study now. We're going to be in Psalm 49 today, and I've titled this, The Folly of Trusting in Riches. Now, there is nothing wrong with having riches. The problem with riches is when we trust in them more than we trust in God. And so we're going to begin with the first section, and in this first verse, wisdom is personified as a town crier, kind of like one who is standing in the town square calling loudly, hear ye, listen to me. And so, let's, since she's speaking, since wisdom is talking, let's listen to her and see what she has to say. So it says in verse 1, hear this, all peoples. Give ear, all inhabitants of the world. So she's reaching out, both low and high, rich and poor together. My mouth will speak wisdom, and the meditation of my heart will be understanding. And I will incline my ear to a proverb, and I will express my riddle on the harp. So a proverb is simply a wise saying. So she's going to give us some wise sayings. And of course, David, when he wrote these things, he was making up songs, and they would play them on the harp. And so here wisdom is saying, I will express this proverb, this riddle, on a harp. So what does she say? The first thing that wisdom tells us is the insufficiency of wealth. She says, why should I fear in the days of adversity when the iniquity of my foes surrounds me? Even those who trust in their wealth and boast in the abundance of their riches. No man can by any means redeem his brother or give to God a ransom for him. So he's saying, why should I be afraid in times of trouble? Salvation, my redemption, it can't be bought or sold. It can't even be bartered for. I cannot redeem myself. I cannot redeem my brother. I can't purchase it. Salvation cannot be bought. For the redemption of a man's soul is costly. And he should cease trying forever, that he should live on eternally, that he should not undergo decay. In other words, just, how costly is redemption? What does it cost? You can't buy it. You can't barter for it. You can't be bought and sold. But how costly is it? Well, Jesus had to die for it. And so what he says there is, therefore, you should stop trying to live forever. You can't do it. Now, this verse speaks specifically to those modern-day transhumanists that want to extend their lives indefinitely. And I don't have time to get into transhumanism this morning, but it is the attempt through the blending together of human flesh and computer technology, being able to download your thoughts and memories and save them off to a hard drive somewhere for posterity, or even to genetically alter the aging process. All of this is real, and it's going on today. People really want to live forever. And Jesus' wisdom says here, just stop trying to do that, because you can't do it. You can't cheat death. It's coming for everybody. So just quit. And wealth is just not sufficient. You can't earn that. You can't buy anything with your wealth. And then he talks about it being just foolish to even try to do that. And he talks about a person's pride, the folly of pride in verse 10. He says, for he sees that even wise men die, the stupid and the senseless alike perish and leave their wealth to others. And their inner thought is that their houses are forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They have called their lands after their own names. So he's saying here, even the wisest of men who know how to obtain wealth cannot outsmart death. Nobody can. And to even try to do so is really foolish. He says, but man in his pomp will not endure. He is like the beasts that perish. Man, anyone who's trusting in his own riches, his own intelligence, who's trusting in technology, this stuff is foolish, because just like the beasts of the field, you will die. Everybody does. We do not outsmart death. And it's foolish to even try. Now, he says that they try to build a legacy. And what he means there, what I mean there when I say the word legacy, the wisdom said that they think their houses are forever, and they name their lands after themselves. And that's really what he's trying to do, is build this forever name for himself. You know, we have somebody that owns a piece of property, and what comes to my mind is the XIT Ranch. It was a big, huge ranch over on the west side of the Panhandle, and it's been around forever, but it no longer operates as a ranch. The original owners are gone, long gone, and now the only thing that's left is the name of it. And it won't be much longer, I'm sure, and the name will be gone and forgotten. But he says here, people try to build a legacy and a forever name for themselves, but in the end, we all die, and we are soon forgotten. Yeah, I'm sure you can go back in time, go back to the days of Israel, where a tract of land was known as somebody's name. For instance, in the Old Testament, we read about Naboth, who owned a vineyard, and Ahab wanted it. So, and it was called Naboth's Vineyard. If we hadn't recorded that in the scriptures, then we never would have known that Naboth ever owned that land. And who in the world is Naboth? You know, so, and that's the way it is. We are soon forgotten after we're gone. Who are the men who owned the XIT? I have no idea. They are forgotten. And when the eventually when the name goes away, that too will be forgotten by the next generation. So it's foolish to even try to do that. Wisdom says everything in this world is temporary. Nothing in this world is permanent. Nothing. Houses, cars, finances, good times, even bad times, nothing is permanent. And it is foolish to think that it is, and try to trust in that temporariness, that which is temporary, to build a lasting name for yourself, because it will not last. In fact, that's what he says next, the destiny of the fool, the one who trusts in those things. Verse 13, he says, this is the way of those who are foolish, and those after them who approve their words. Selah means pause. Think about this. Think about how foolish this is. And then to continue that thought, wisdom says, as sheep, they are appointed for Sheol. That means the grave. Death shall be their shepherd, and the upright shall rule over them in the morning. And their form shall be for Sheol to consume, so that they have no habitation. In other words, man, those who follow this path in life, that is, trusting in their wealth, trusting in all of their ability to create a name for themselves, they all end up in the same place, the grave, with absolutely nothing. That's what they end up with. Now, like I said at the beginning, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being wealthy and having riches, because God does sometimes bestow this. The point here is not to place your trust in those things, not to expect that will be able to save you. And another thing that I might say here is, don't let your wealth fool you into thinking that God is pleased with you. Just because you are wealthy does not mean that God is pleased with you. And also, on the other side of that coin, just because you are not wealthy does not mean that God is not pleased with you. He does not reward faithfulness with riches. He may reward you with riches out of his grace and goodness to you, but it is any reward that you receive from God is based upon your relationship to him. Really, it's not a matter of faith. If I believe enough, that's not what it is. So anyway, riches is not an indication of God's favor. It is an indicator of God's blessing, but not his favor. And the lack of riches is not an indicator of God's displeasure with you. It's just he's going to bless you in a different way. So anyway, those who are wealthy and trusting in their wealth, they end up all at the same place. They end up in the grave with nothing. And so it's foolish to trust in those. But he says here, but God will redeem my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me. Selah. Think about that. So what he's saying here is, I cannot purchase my salvation. I cannot save me from death, but God can, and he will redeem me from the power of the grave, and he will receive me. Why? Why should God redeem me? Because I trust in him alone and not in my riches or my abilities. You see, salvation is based upon your relationship to him and your trust in him and nothing else. Not in your ability to grow riches, not in your ability to build a name, but in who you trust, in Jesus. That's why God will redeem you. And that's it, him alone, by trusting in him alone and nothing else. So, next he gives us the admonition of the wise, to the wise rather, an admonition to those who are wise. He said, do not be afraid when man becomes rich, when the glory of his house is increased. For when he dies, he will carry nothing away. His glory will not descend after him. In other words, it doesn't go with him. Don't envy the rich, or don't be jealous of their earthly glory. It's only temporary. You know, people who have great wealth and they're able to have these enormous mansions and beautiful homes and the best cars. You know, I think of right now what comes to my mind is some of these preachers, these evangelists that are false teachers. And they've got these multi-million-dollar mansions with pools and tennis courts, and they drive expensive cars, and they've got their own jet or something like. It's foolish. Don't envy them. Don't be jealous of all that. You know, maybe they wear $3,000 suits or $3,000 dresses or whatever. Maybe they do line their walls with gold plating. Friends, don't let their glory impress you, because it's only temporary. In fact, you know, the Bible says he can't take it with him. When they die, it all stays behind. He carries nothing away. It will not go with him. In fact, you know, somebody once said, imagine if we could take our gold with us to heaven. And you've got this bag of gold that you took to heaven. Well, the Bible also says that the streets of the New Jerusalem will be paved with gold. They're golden streets. And so it's under your feet. At that point, gold is just pavement. So if you're walking around with all this gold, everybody else is going to wonder why you're carrying around a bag full of pavement. You know, it's worthless up there. We don't need it. And so nobody takes it with them. They leave it all behind because this world is just temporary. And it says here, though while he congratulates himself, and though men may praise you when you do well for yourself. Here, he's saying, don't get a big head when the world praises you. One of my mentors, one time during seminary said, don't believe your own press reports. And he was telling me that because, you know, when the interns would preach on Sunday nights, and often after Sunday nights, after the service, the church members would come up and brag about how well they did and tell them all kinds of things. And so the preacher was saying, look, remain humble. Okay, don't believe all the press reports. Don't get a big head when the world praises you, because that same world also condemns those who are spiritually minded. If you try to tell them about Jesus, they will condemn you, but they'll turn around and praise you for your wealth or whatever, or for your great intelligence. But anyway, remain humble. Don't get the big head and start thinking that you are somebody, right? I am somebody because I've got all this going for me. Don't do that. Don't let that happen. He says, he shall go to the generation of his fathers. That is, those who do this, these wealthy people that are trusting in their riches. They'll go to the generation of his fathers, same place they did. They will never see the light. Man in his pomp, yet without understanding, is like the beasts that perish. And there again, he said the same thing. Those who trust in their riches and all their pomp and glory, they're just like animals. They will die just like them, and they will take nothing with them. And they will end up in the grave and in darkness forever, and they will never see the light of glory. So fools do not understand God's reality. Eventually they will die and never see the light of God. Friends, that is right there, Psalm 49. Don't trust in your riches. Don't trust in the ability to build a name for yourself. Don't be foolish. Everything in this world is temporary. So just be grateful to God for what you have. Remain humble and give him all the glory. And then he will bless you for that. You will be blessed for that. All right. Thank you for joining me today on this cold Wednesday morning. And it is my prayer that you would walk with God and stay humble, because he loves you, and so do I. All right. God bless you. We will see you on Sunday.